Steeler fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers News. Hey, organized team activities going on. There is stuff to talk about. We've been doing these. I've been doing these episodes probably about every other day, and that's fine by me. You all seem to be watching them on YouTube. You're listening to them on podcasts. You're obviously enjoying them. So I'm going to keep producing content if you all are enjoying the content. Now, if you're listening on podcasts and you didn't know we have a YouTube channel, check us out on YouTube by going to the search bar, type in BTSC Steelers Radio, subscribe, give us a thumbs up on these videos, and comment if you want. I'm always active in there. I try to respond to people that have questions. And likewise, if you're on YouTube and you didn't know that we have a whole podcast platform, check us out there. Go to the podcast, iTunes, search The Standard is the Standard to get all of our podcasts, not just this one. All right, let's get right into the Steelers news. That's what you want to hear. Organized team activities, or OTAs as we now call them, or as Mike Tomlin refers to them as football in shorts, have completed. It is a wrap. OTA 10 ended today, and lo and behold, who showed up? Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger returned. He spoke to the media. He talked about how Coach Tomlin seemed to know that he was going to be missing, that it wasn't anything controversial. And that's something that I said last episode. If you listen to our last show, I spoke about the absences of Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger, saying that it's just not that big a deal right now. And it isn't. Ben Roethlisberger's back, and he said it best himself. He knows Randy Fichtner. He knows the offense, which has not changed that much. And he understands that the backup quarterbacks like a Joshua Dobbs and a Mason Rudolph can really benefit from the increased repetition. So he was back. Now, there was some news other than that. Bud Dupree and TJ Watt both spoke about how they're really getting exotic and trying out some new things in organized team activities with the defense, especially the pass rushers. And what they've been doing most recently is not just flipping sides, which happened earlier and got a lot of headlines and OTAs. They've been putting both of the pass rushers on one side. That's right. Bud Dupree or TJ Watt could be lining up on both the right side or the left side, depending on the situation in the call. This is how the defense, though, is going to start scheming. It's going to be more exotic. It's going to be more of a you don't really know what's coming defense. Now, personally, I don't mind that. I really don't. I think that a defense shouldn't be predictable. But there's also people that say a defense should be able to line up, be better than the other person, not have to out-scheme them, and be able to stop them. But the Steelers don't have the most talented defense in the NFL. No one's going to argue that. But what they do have is a defense that's capable. They're capable of winning games. They're capable of doing some good things. They did set a new franchise record for sacks in the season last year, so let's not dismiss the defense altogether. They're going to have some tweaks. They have a lot of new coaches on the defensive side of the football, so that's something to keep an eye on. Other than that, not a lot of news. Mike Tomlin praised Terrell Edmunds for his work ethic, his footwork. He has good hands for a safety his size. And so I think that Terrell Edmunds, we haven't heard a lot about him throughout OTAs. We've heard a ton about Mason Rudolph, largely off the field stuff with Ben Roethlisberger, how they hadn't talked, the comments made by Ben, all that stuff. Haven't heard a lot about rookies in general. James Washington's got some good reviews, but Terrell Edmunds got some good reviews recently, and that's good to hear for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 1 draft pick out of Virginia Tech. So OTAs are over. What's next? On the 12th of June, that's next Tuesday, the Steelers start mandatory minicamp. There's 3 days of mandatory minicamp. Again, OTAs were voluntary, folks. If you didn't know, they don't have to be there. Ben Roethlisberger wasn't docked pay. Ben Roethlisberger wasn't criticized from the team or fined from the team because of his absence recently in OTAs. He doesn't have to be there technically. They expect him to be there, but he doesn't have to be there. Mandatory minicamp is just that. It is mandatory. So you should see Antonio Brown. You should see Ben Roethlisberger. And while fans might sit there and think to themselves, that means Le'Veon Bell should be there. No, Le'Veon Bell does not have to be there because technically he is not under contract. If he's under contract, he would have to be there. But because he has not signed his exclusive rights franchise tag, He does not have to be there, and that's how he gets away with that. I do want to mention, because a lot of fans on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com have kind of been confused with this, Le'Veon Bell right now could not be traded because he hasn't signed his exclusive rights franchise tag. But what the Steelers could do, because he has not signed, is they could always rescind that tag, take it away, and what would happen? Bell would become a free agent. That $14.5 million he's owed is off the books, and then they go into the season without him. The last time this happened was Josh Norman down in Carolina. They had franchise tagged him. They realized the writing on the wall for future contract negotiations were not good. They rescinded the deal, and now he's playing for the Washington Redskins. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Le'Veon Bell's going to sit out unless they get a long-term deal done. So, minicamp's coming up. We'll still be there to cover it here on the Steelers News as well as on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. But one of the things I really wanted to take some time to talk about, I thought about this a lot today, and that was who are some veterans on this football team, because the Steelers are young in certain areas, but they have a lot of vested veterans on their team as well. Who are some veterans that could be cut before the regular season? And I came up with a list. Now, as always, if you disagree with my list, go in the comment section, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and let me know. It's not going to be the first time I've been criticized. Trust me. If you agree with the list, let me know too. This is what it's all about. It's about discussion. It's about talking about the team that we all love, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the first person I thought of when I thought of a veteran that could be cut is Cody Sensabaugh. Cody Sensabaugh is not necessarily a fan favorite. I thought he did okay in the time that he spent on the field last season as a cornerback. But when you look at the depth chart, I just don't see a reason to keep Sensabaugh anymore. You have Joe Hayden, you have Artie Burns, Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton. Those are your top four cornerbacks right now. And then you have a guy like Brian Allen, who certainly deserves to have a spot. He's big, tall, fast. He's rough around the edges in terms of technique, but he's a guy that could be turning some heads. I had him on the last show as a sleeper. So I think that him playing well would give them 5 defensive backs, five cornerbacks, I should say. I think that's a good number. And I think that means that Cody Sensabaugh and his, I believe, $2 million salary cap would be going elsewhere. So that's number one, Cody Sensabaugh, cornerback. Not necessarily tied to production, tied more to position and other players at that position. Next, we're going to go to the wide receivers. Now, this is a unique situation because I feel like one of these two is going to be gone. Darius Heyward-Bey or Justin Hunter. Now, Justin Hunter, in my opinion, brings more to the offense than Darius Heyward-Bey, but I think Darius Heyward-Bey brings more to the team. Darius Heyward-Bey is a team veteran. Players look up to him. He is a special teams guy who has embraced that. We're talking about a former first-round draft pick by the Oakland Raiders who has now embraced being a gunner on special teams. It takes a certain type of player to be able to kind of put themselves down on the notch, and take themselves down a few pegs to be able to accept that role. But he has, and he's done a good job with that role. But like I said, Justin Hunter, I think, brings more to the offense. He's a deep threat player. He might be a player that could replace some of the things that Martavis Bryant did last year. He's a tremendous practice player. You hear about these ridiculous catches he makes. Maybe he can translate into the regular season. But I will say this, I don't think both of these players are making the team like they did last year. I think it's one or the other. Now, if I had to pick, I think Darius Heyward-Bey might be gone. I think solely on finances, the fact that he is going to cost more than Justin Hunter. Not to mention a guy like Brian Allen, who I just talked about, could possibly replace him as a gunner on special teams. So I think it's going to be one or the other. I don't think both are going to make it. I don't think both are going to get cut either. But at the same time, if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to say Darius Heyward-Bey is going to be gone. Next, I go to the running backs. Let's look at the running back depth chart right now. Assuming Le'Veon Bell is going to be back, whether the Steelers sign him to a long-term deal or not is really not important. Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, I would assume, is the number 2. Then you have Jalen Samuels from North Carolina State. He's in the mix there. That's 3 backs that are probably going to make the team. Who else makes the team? Do they keep 4? Because you got to remember Roosevelt Nix is a part of that group. I don't know. You have Fitzgerald Toussaint, who's been on the team since 2015. And then you have Stephen Ridley, who came in last year, played well against the Texans and the Browns, proved that, if anything, he can still run the football against bad teams. He's experienced. They're both veterans. This is what we're talking about here. Veterans that could be cut. I think the Steelers keep one or the other. Now, again, this is a very similar situation to the wide receiver situation with Hunter and Heyward-Bey. In my opinion, Toussaint gives the Steelers as a team more based on the fact that he can return kicks. He plays special teams. Stephen Ridley, he brings more experience. He runs the ball in a different fashion. He might bring more to the offense. If I have to guess, now this gets dicey because you have to remember last season, Fitzgerald Toussaint was cut. They chose Terrell Watson over Toussaint. And that says something to me. That says that they chose someone else over a guy that had experience. Everyone remembers the fumble in 2015 against the Broncos in the divisional round by Toussaint. And Stephen Ridley, he's back. If I have to pick who's going to make the team, you know what? I could honestly see them both getting cut. There's some practice squad players that the Steelers like. I could see both of these guys being shown the door. I just don't know if there's a role for either of them on this football team anymore. Not with the draft picks that were made. I just don't see it. I'm going to say that both are gone. Now, the one veteran that I feel that everyone wants to hear me say could possibly be cut is Landry Jones. But this is going to segue into me recapping all this. I went through the list that I just named, and I kind of put almost like an injury designation to it. You think about when the Steelers release an injury report, they're probable or they're questionable or they're ruled out. So I did this for every single player is probable to be cut. There's a moderate chance that they'll be cut or it's doubtful that they'll be cut. So, for instance, Cody Sensabaugh, I have his designation as probable. I think there's a very good chance that he is going to be cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers, barring injury. All of these are barring injury. Keep that in mind. Toussaint and Stephen Ridley, also probable that they're going to be cut, barring injury. Then we go to Justin Hunter and Darius Heyward-Bey. I have those as moderate. There's a good chance that one of the two, like I mentioned earlier, and Landry Jones, everyone hates the guy. I haven't talked to too many people that say, I'm all about Landry Jones. I am 100% behind Landry Jones if Ben Roethlisberger goes down. He just doesn't invoke that kind of confidence. But I still have him as doubtful. It's doubtful this guy's going to get cut. Joshua Dobbs would have to play lights out, and Mason Rudolph would have to do the same for the Steelers to be comfortable in a situation where if Ben Roethlisberger were to get hurt, they're going to turn the keys of the car over to a guy that knows what they're doing and can still win them games. I can debate whether Landry Jones is capable or not until I'm blue in the face, but right now I just don't see it happening. I think Landry Jones is doubtful to be cut. So there you have it. Those are some veterans that I think are not going to be on the team. Maybe one or two, not counting Landry Jones, makes the team. Other than that, I don't think they do. I think the Steelers are young. I think they're going to be primed to have an insurgence of youth in their lineup, and that's not a bad thing as long as they're ready. That's a big thing. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about before we kind of send it off for tonight is a debate. Had this debate with a friend of mine. We're both big Steeler fans. And the debate was who will have the best defensive production or will have the biggest impact on the defense this season, Mike Hilton or Cam Sutton? Now, that's a tough question for me. Really difficult. Because to me, Mike Hilton owns the slot. He proved it last year. Played tremendous football. But Cameron Sutton is more talented. He's a guy that comes with pedigree. He was a drafted player. He has versatility. I just don't know where to go with this. I mean, you can bounce the back and forth. You can talk about who does what better. This is going to be difficult because honestly, I think in 2018, and Mike Hilton has a 1-year contract. He's playing under a 1-year contract. I'm going to go with Mike Hilton is going to have a bigger impact on the Steelers defense in 2018 than Cam Sutton. That's not a knock on Cam Sutton. I just think Hilton's going to be on the field more. He proved enough last year. He's going to be the nickel cornerback. And then Cameron Sutton's going to take over the William Gay role in the dime. Both are going to play a lot. Both are going to have their opportunities. But the Steelers defense and the Steelers coaching staff, we've already seen it. They like Mike Hilton. They trust Mike Hilton. They're going to put him in position to make plays. Cameron Sutton long term, I think, is the answer. Because he can play inside, he can play outside. For crying out loud, the guy can return kicks and punts too. But right now, going into 2018, I put my money on Mike Hilton to have the bigger impact. So again, what do you think? Go to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Comment on this article. Get a little debate going. Get a little discussion going. It's always good in the offseason. Same on YouTube. Go underneath this video. Let me know what you think. Who has the bigger impact, Cam Sutton or Mike Hilton? You be the judge, and then we'll figure out what happens once training camp comes. So, folks, that's the end of this episode of the Steelers News. I'm Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Remember, that's your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news. As always, find us on YouTube. Go to BTSC Steelers Radio. Subscribe. Thumbs up the video. Let us know you like the content. We're going to be showing out some new shows here soon, as well as on podcast form. Go to iTunes. Search The Standard is the standard for all our podcasts. I thank you for listening. Minicamp coming up next week. We'll have it all for you here. Thanks for listening. Bye.